Hey everyone, Angelo here. Welcome to another design tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to create an interactive resume in Adobe InDesign. I'm going to go over how to create collapsible buttons using the show and hide buttons and forms action. As well, I'm going to show you how to hyperlink icons to take you to social media channels. So let's get started. Okay, so let's start building our interactive resume. On my screen here, I do have one that I've already created previously. You can see I've applied buttons to some of the content in this sidebar. We're not going to worry so much about the right side information here. We're just going to build out this left sidebar with the photo, the name, the position, and then a little more information about the applicant. So I've created another document, or another page I should say, down below. I have some of the assets that I'm going to be using, so the icons, social media, and then we'll build things out from there. So first things first, I'm going to grab my rectangle frame tool, and I'm just going to create a frame that extends from margin to margin down below. And in this case, I did extend it through the gutter and to that rule, or that guide, I should say. And then I do have a color here that I want this. That color there. And I'm going to change the tint of it to 20%. I believe that's the same. Good. Next, I'm going to click and hold the rectangle frame tool to get the flyout, and I do want the ellipse frame tool, so go ahead and click that. When you're drawing out your ellipse, hold down your shift key and you'll get a perfect circle. If you don't, then it's just going to kind of be out of proportion there. So hold your shift key and you'll get a perfect circle, and that's good. I'm just gonna hang it over this frame, and I'm gonna give it a stroke of about maybe 6 for now, and that could be changed. Actually, 6 is good. And then I have an image here I'm just going to drag in. Perfect. Let's go ahead and grab the type tool, draw out a text frame, and I named this fictional applicant Amanda Ferguson. Gonna select all that, and I've created a few paragraph styles already. Resume name. I'm just gonna go ahead and select her last name and change the color. Something similar to what I have up top is good. Let's bring that up a bit. Perfect. Let's go ahead and grab the type tool again and drag out another text frame. And she's a fashion designer. Select that, and you can choose whatever font you want. In this case, I'm using a combination of, let's see, resume section. There we go, fashion designer. That's not what I want. This is what I didn't create I create a style for that. So I'm just gonna copy it and then paste it in here. And that is Helvetica 10 point. So I'm using a combination of Helvetica and Spectral, which I found was a good combo together. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe just center these like so. Center all that. Perfect. Okay, so great. I have my image, her name, as well as fashion designer, the position she holds. Now I can start building out some of the other elements. So I'm going to go ahead and grab another text frame, or draw one out, I should say. And I'm going to say about me. This, I know I did create a paragraph style, so about me resume section header, that's called. Let's go ahead and create another text frame. I do have some text here that I'm just going to copy into this frame. And I believe it's, oh, I did create a paragraph style for this as well. So let's just make it basic for now, and it's about me text. So that's Helvetica Neue 10 point. Okay, great. So we're rolling here. This is good. I'm just gonna kind of adjust things on the fly there. That's good. Let's make that fit. Perfect. I'm just gonna add a little bit more space to this. Let's actually create a guide that goes to about her name for now, Amanda Ferguson. Where does that guide go? Okay, maybe even a little bit more, because we're gonna need a little bit more space here. So maybe something like that. For now, we can adjust. I'm just gonna shove everything off to the side a little bit and then extend that frame down. Perfect. Reason being is we're gonna add some buttons here to have this text collapse. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm just gonna copy this one and drag out another copy, just so I don't have to recreate it. And this one's gonna be called Contact Me. Actually, I'm not doing it all upper, so I'm just gonna say Contact Me, and this will be About Me. And I have 3 icons here. One will be, I'm just gonna center this to everything. One will be, I'm gonna bring that to the front. Website, email, mobile. Bring those to the front. Perfect. And I'm just gonna collect these 3 and bring them down here. And right now I'm just putting them in pretty roughly. You can adjust things at the end when you have everything set. I'm just bringing these to the front by hitting Shift Command and then my square bracket to bring them all the way to the front. That's a shortcut for send to back, bring to front, forward, or backwards. Okay, so I'm gonna maybe bring this stuff down a little bit, just to create equal spacing between all 3 elements. Perfect. Right there, it's telling me the space between Contact Me and About Me, as well as Contact Me and Social Media, are equal. Perfect. Let go, and there you go. So now I'm going to show you how to create collapsible buttons, as well as link these icons to social media, as well as website and other elements. Okay, so now that we have our information, our icons all in this sidebar, I went ahead and added a right arrow and a down arrow. These are ones that I've created myself. You can go ahead and use any ones that you want or any shape that you would like. But for in this case, because this is a collapsible button, I just went ahead and I used the pen tool and created this, just an arrow to the right and an arrow to the left. Duplicated them, and we're going to go ahead and use them as collapsible buttons to bring up the information in our sidebar. So again, for this tutorial, you're going to need to open up the Buttons and Forms panel. We're not going to need the hyperlinks actually, so let's just close that. So again, Buttons and Forms can be found in Window, Interactive, Buttons and Forms. So go ahead and open up that. Click on your selection tool and then click on your right arrow, and we want to turn that into a button. And I'm going to call this one right arrow 4. I'm only doing that because I've created right arrows in the previous page that I showed you, so I don't want to have any confusion. So right arrow 4, and I'm going to click on the down arrow, turn that into a button as well. And I'm going to call this down arrow 4. So if you were just starting from scratch, you wouldn't have to add the number, unless of course you're adding more than one of the same elements, in which case use numbering to eliminate any confusion. I'm going to click on the information text frame and also turn that into a button. And I'm not going to add any action. I am just going to call this one About Me Info 2. And I'm going to also click the hidden until triggered, because I don't want that to appear until I click on the right arrow to have that collapse. So go ahead and select hidden until triggered. Now let's start adding some actions to the buttons. So let's start with the right arrow 4. The event will be on release or tap, that's fine. I'm gonna click on the plus symbol here to add an action, and I want to add the show hide buttons and forms action. And I'm gonna do the same to the down arrow. Click the plus sign, show hide buttons and forms. With the down arrow, let's also hide that until it's triggered down below here. I don't want that to appear either upon page load anyways. I'm gonna click on my right arrow again. In my visibility options down here, you can see that all of them are X'd out. That means they're being ignored. We have to switch that, we have to change that. So when I click the right arrow, I want the right arrow to actually be hidden. I want the down arrow, I want to show it, and I want the About Me info too to also appear. So when I click that, it's going to hide the right arrow forward 4, show down arrow 4, and show About Me 2. Let's click on the down arrow. In this case, I want to show right arrow 4, hide down arrow 4, and hide About Me 2. Let's go ahead and test that. I'm gonna click on my preview EPUB viewer, and it's gonna bring up a window for me to take a look. You can see now that upon page load, the information is gone. So is the down arrow. So I'm gonna hover over the right arrow and click that down, and there you go. You can see that it collapsed, and if I click it, it's gonna collapse back. So that's a really cool way of bringing that collapsible element into a resume design. Let's move on. I'm gonna move down to Contact Me, and it's gonna be the same idea here. I'm going to click on, let's start by creating buttons from the arrows. So let's go ahead and create that into a button. And let's call this right arrow 5. Let's click on the down arrow, and it's going to be a button, and let's change that to down arrow 5. Now in this case, what am I going to do? I am actually going to click on each one of these elements and create it into a button as well. So let's go ahead and click on the icon of the website, change that into a button, and let's hide it until it's triggered. Let's call this website icon 2. Let's click on this website here, create that into a button. Let's call it website name. Hide that till it's triggered. Let's click on the icon for the email and do the same. Email icon 2. Hide that. Let's click the email name. Email name 2. Hide that. Mobile phone, let's just say mobile icon 2. Hide that. And finally, let's create a button for the phone number. So phone number icon, and let's hide that. Great. So let's go ahead and go back to our right arrow key, or icon I should say, and add the action of show hide buttons and forms. Now this is going to be a little bit more complex because there's more elements to work with here. So with the right arrow, let's go ahead and first off, we want to hide the right arrow 5. So we're working with 5 now. Let's hide that. And then pretty much we're going to show everything else. So we're going to show the down arrow, show website icon 2, show website name, show the email icon, the name, mobile phone icon, and mobile phone. Okay, let's click on the down arrow. Let's make sure that's also hidden until it's triggered. Let's go ahead and give that a show hide buttons and forms action. And in this case, I want to show the right arrow, not that one. That's where things can get confusing, and renaming things is very important. So it's actually right arrow 5. I want to show that. And then everything else will be hidden. So down arrow 5, website icon 2, hide everything else in the visibility for the contacts. All the elements, the icons and the names. And I'm going to test this out in a second, because oftentimes you may have missed something and we'd have to go back and fix it. So testing and viewing your work as you go is very important. So there you go, contact me, let's drop it down. There's all the elements, and let's bring it back up. That seems to work fine. Now the reason I did these individually and not group them, I guess you could group them, but now you can go in and start linking these icons without having to worry about linking the name along with them. So it's up to you, but that works fine. So let's finish this off with this last one. Let's click the right arrow key and turn that into a button. This will be called right arrow 6. Let's click on down arrow, click button, down arrow 6. Also make sure you're hiding it, so hidden until triggered. If you don't do that and you load the page, both buttons will appear on page load. Once you click the right arrow, the down arrow will disappear, but you don't want that to show up when you load the page. So go ahead and hide that. Click on the LinkedIn button icon and let's turn it into a button. And let's just simply call that LinkedIn icon 2. Hide that. Click on Twitter, and I think you get it from now on. You're getting the idea. Let's call it Twitter icon 2, and let's hide it. And YouTube is the last one, so let's go ahead and call this YouTube icon 2, and let's hide that as well. Let's start adding the actions now. Let's go back to the right arrow key, click on the plus symbol to add the show and hide buttons and forms. Let's go ahead here, and down below, this is where you're going to start adding the actions. So what do we want? We actually want to hide right arrow 6, show everything else. It's pretty straightforward from there. Twitter and YouTube icon. Let's click on the down arrow. Yes, we've already hidden it until triggered, so that's good. Let's show hide buttons and forms. Let's show the right arrow 6 and then hide everything else. Perfect. Let's test this out and see if it all works and it's all in sync. Perfect. About me, contact me, social media. So that's how you create collapsible buttons. Let's go ahead and add URL links to some of these social media websites as well as the actual website. Okay, so as a final step, now we're going to add some URL links to the social media as well as the website. So let's go ahead and start with the website. This is pretty simple to do. I'm just gonna click the button that I've created on this icon, and we're just going to add the action of go to URL. So if I click that, now what InDesign offers me is I can actually type in the URL. Now fergusondesign.com, I don't know if it exists or not. I'm just gonna type in www.montilladesign.com/tutorials. That's where you can find a lot of my InDesign tutorials as well. Let's move down and let's do the same to the LinkedIn. Click on the plus sign to add the action of go to URL. And let's type in www. In this case, let's just put linkedin.com. Obviously, if you're pointing employers or recruiters to your LinkedIn, you would put in your actual personal LinkedIn URL. Let's do the same for Twitter. Click that, add the action of go to URL, www.twitter.com. And then finally, let's just go to YouTube. Actions, go to URL, www.youtube.com/amontilla81 is my YouTube channel. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish this online, and we're going to test out the links as well as the hyperlinks and URL. And then we're going to do the same for PDF. This works for both platforms. All right, so I opened up my interactive resume in a web browser. I've published it online. Let's test out the collapsible buttons and the hyperlinks. So about me, contact me, social media. Let's click on fergusondesign.com. That takes you to, well, that's my website, to the tutorials section. That works. Let's click LinkedIn. It'll take you to the LinkedIn website. Twitter. So you get the idea that those work fine. I've also opened it up in PDF. So here's my PDF interface. I'm going to click About Me, Contact Me, Social Media. Let's click on the web icon there. Takes you to my site with the tutorials. Let's go back to the PDF. LinkedIn. Perfect. So it works there as well. So depending on how you want to deliver this resume or apply to a specific job with this resume, you can either send it as an interactive PDF or share the link to the online version. I will note that you have to be in Acrobat Pro or an Acrobat Reader for the interactivity to work. Otherwise, these buttons, the collapsible buttons or the hyperlinks that we set up, may not work when the PDF opens in a web browser straight from an email. So just let the person know who you're sending this to that it's best that they open it in a Acrobat Reader or Acrobat Pro. So that's how you create an interactive resume in Adobe InDesign. If you enjoyed this tutorial, if you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials to come each and every week.